Good evening. A damning report says West Midlands communities are becoming increasingly divided. The year-long review, which was commissioned by the government, says too many minority groups are living in isolation and failing to integrate.
Among the recommendations, an oath of integration for new immigrants and more English classes for minority groups, especially women. Reaction first in a report, but first we join our political correspondent Alison Mackenzie in Westminster. Alison.
Yes, well, Louise Casey isn't afraid to tell it like it is in this report. She reveals what she describes as uncomfortable truths about what she's discovered about integration, or the lack of. She was commissioned to this inquiry by David Cameron, who came up to Birmingham back in July 2015 in the wake of the Trojan horse scandal, when there was big tension and concern about rising radical extremism. Well, he tasked Louise Casey, one of his government advisors, with carrying out this report. This is what he said to her.
She'll look at issues like how we can ensure people learn English, how we boost employment outcomes, especially for women, how state agencies can work with these communities to properly promote integration and opportunity, while also learning lessons from past mistakes.
But what she uncovered was the sheer scale of the problem, which she puts down to the fast rising population, the big birth rate. Some wards, some sections of cities in Birmingham, Coventry, Telford are 75%, 80% one culture, mostly Muslim. But she also talks about lack of equality for black boys, difficulty in getting jobs, and white working class areas who need a leg up. She says integration is the key and it's not happening, and she makes recommendations. Why is it so important? This is how she summed it up.
The problem we've got is that we have a rising extreme far right, we have a rising Islamist extremists out there. These people are hate mongers. The more we're not able to unify as a country, the more we give space to these nasty people that are simply trying to divide as a nation at a point that we should be coming together.
So that's why she tasked the government with getting an integration strategy. She talks about English lessons, particularly for Muslim women, communities excluded, she says. It's all about looking to the future and coming up with policies that will put right the damage. But the reaction to these findings, well, we went out to Small Heath in Birmingham. Our correspondent Rajiv Popat now reports.
Birmingham is a multicultural, multi-faith city. But according to Dame Louise Casey, as we become more diverse, we're becoming more divided. Her report says social integration is failing to keep up with unprecedented immigration. Ethnic groups are increasingly isolated socially and economically, and it says cultural and religious practices are contrary to British values.
We live quite peacefully, and that's all I can say. I'm happy to live together.
A lot of predominantly Asians and some form of Muslims live in the area, and they all seem to get along pretty well.
I shouldn't imagine around here that has happened. You know, I imagine it's quite fairly cohesive around here.
The review says many Muslims increasingly do not identify themselves as being British.
I don't understand why we have to identify ourselves anyways, but, you know, we are a society that mingles in, you know.
Dame Casey says women in some Muslim communities were less likely to speak English and more likely to be kept at home.
I'm at work right now and I think I speak quite good English, so everyone can understand me, so it's just random and really just not true at all.
According to Dame Louise Casey, it's important to highlight some of the points raised because she says not talking about these issues only gives ammunition to the extreme far right and Islamic extremists, who she says are the people who set out to divide us.
Actually, if we're talking about integration, surely this is integration not just for Muslims, this is integration for all communities. If we want to build a stronger Britain, then we need to do so collectively, not just on the shoulders of one community. So in order to tackle extreme polarized right-wing views, we need to ensure we get our integration model correct, and we need to do so as a larger cohesive model.
The review recommends that new immigrants swear an oath of integration to British values.
I don't think we needed it before, and I don't think we need it now, because regardless of whether you swear an oath or not, you're going to follow, you're most likely to follow your cultural beliefs and your religious beliefs before you swear to an oath anyway.
It calls calls for more funding for classes to tackle cultural barriers and more English courses, and for British values to be taught in schools. Dame Casey's comments have attracted criticism, and her views will no doubt continue to divide opinion. Rajiv Poppet, ITV News, Birmingham.
So, Alison, we have this report and the recommendations, but what's the government going to do about it?
Well, yes, as Rajiv says there in his report, it's dividing opinion. Some agree with what Louise Casey's saying. Some say that that kind of accusation is going to inflame the situation. It'll be uncomfortable reading for the Community Secretary, Sajid Javid, the Bromsgrove MP, but he talks in his reply today of an open society, a need to create one Britain that espouses all values that everyone should treasure. Openness, tolerance, equality. So this report is a wake-up call. Yes, there are problems. They've got to get a grip quickly, and that is going to cost money, but the will, he says, is there, and the government will come back with a formal response.
Alison, thank you very much.